Did Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach 2 just get confirmed by Scott Cawthon himself? Well, that's the question we're going to be asking in today's video, after hearing the news that there is a sequel being worked on for one of the FNAF projects, but we have no confirmation on what it is. But I am pretty sure it's going to be Security Breach 2, so without further ado, let's just go and of course talk about this. So if you guys weren't up to date, Dawko just had a charity livestream yesterday, and in this livestream, of course, a lot happened. It all started going crazy when Scott Cawthon went and joined the chat saying, "Hey Dawko, as always, thanks for streaming for a good cause." But before we go a little bit more into the news, of course, thanks to Johnny Blocks on Twitter for of course supporting all the new FNAF news. But we also got a little bit of other news when someone asked Scott Cawthon if he would like to make a sister location movie, and his reply was, "It would make a great movie someday, if we can make it that far." Showing that if the third movie does well, we could potentially get a fourth, fifth, and sixth film, and I would absolutely love that because this location is just an interesting story that can make such a good film, and I am so ready for that. But when someone also asked about Chica's secret party, Scott Cawthon just said, "Scott has left the chat. Thanks everyone, later. Gotta run." But he wasn't done yet. Scott Cawthon also went in the chat and also talked about Iron Lung and how Markiplier is a really good actor, along with also donating a huge amount of money on stream, which is just amazing to see. But that is not when everything went crazy. It all started when Scott confirmed there is a sequel to something being worked on, by the way. Not a 3, a 2. And this is what started all the crazy theories all over the community, and right now we have no confirmation on what this sequel is. All we do know is that it's a sequel. It's not a 3, it's a 2. But of course Dawko and the majority of the community said Security Breach 2, and I personally do think that this could be a Security Breach 2, but of course we're going to have to go and talk about why it could be that too. But some people on Twitter are actually thinking that it could either be a mix between FNAF World 2 or Security Breach 2. And I do think that it's sadly not that simple being a 50-50 split. There's actually a lot of games that haven't got a sequel that possibly could. So let's go and talk about one of the third contenders that many people have been talking about. Of course, a sister location 2. How would this work? Absolutely no idea, but it could be, I don't know, possible. I'm not huge on the FNAF lore. I'm not a huge FNAF nerd, but I do know that I don't really know a lot about it, but FNAF Sister Location 2 could be on the table. Of course, FNAF World is of course a huge contender for that, but I honestly don't think it really could be that. We also cannot forget that Ultimate Custom Night exists, and we could be getting an Ultimate Custom Night 2 with all the new Steel characters, which would be a really cool addition, but I'm just throwing it out there because it hasn't got a sequel yet. Five Nights at Freddy's AR is also a contender on the ring because, you know, the first game kind of, you know, is gone. And to be fully honest, it would be cool to see this game get a revival of some sorts, but honestly, I do not think this is a possibility. But it is a game that hasn't got a sequel yet, so I'm just gonna go and talk about that. It is definitely not talking about the movies because we just got a sequel to the movie, so we do not have to worry about that being an option. We of course got the Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted Curse of Dreadbear DLC, and I gotta say, I don't think it's gonna be a sequel to that, even though that would be pretty cool because I love Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted so much, Help Wanted 1 and 2, but I really do not think that's really possible. But of course, we got the newest release from Steelwool being Secrets of the Mimic, and honestly, that game of course does not have a sequel. It does not even have a DLC. This can easily be a contender even though it just came out and it hasn't even been a year old, but I don't think that it's really possible because I feel like it's way too soon to do a Secrets of the Mimic sequel, and also how will that even really work? But this is when it brings to some of the more interesting options, and the ones that I possibly do think it could be for a Ruin sequel. Yes, Ruin is a DLC and kind of an actual sequel to Security Breach, but it's not Security Breach 2, but we could be getting Security Breach Ruin 2, because, you know, Ruin did end off with a cliffhanger, so that would make lots of sense on why we will be getting a sequel to that. But of course, we really need to talk about the huge elephant in the room, or should I say breach in the room, being Security Breach. This game is absolutely beloved by fandom and also hated at the exact same time. I'm just gonna throw this out there. You guys can hate me for all you want. Some of you guys might even agree with me, but this is my favorite Five Nights at Freddy's game. I don't know what to say about it. It's a love-hate relationship, and there's so much bad and so much good about this. I absolutely love it, and if this ends up actually being the reveal later on that I got a sequel, you guys are gonna have to subscribe, of course, and you should also go and subscribe because it helps you stay up to date in anything Five Nights at Freddy's or any horror talk news. So subscribing really does help out the channel. But still, I do think that Security Breach is the best contender because all the book lore and all that stuff shows that there is a whole past and that Security Breach could get a sequel, even though got said that it will be a sequel and not a prequel, even though a Security Breach 2 being a prequel leading up to the events of Security Breach would be a really cool game and actually have a really cool concept. One thing I'd like to bring up when editing this video is that we have seen some concept art for, of course, the Ruin DLC, and in this whole concept art we can actually see Gregory going and writing in Montgomery, which is something really cool, and I have no idea if this is something that they could go and implement in a Security Breach 2. And of course, this is supposed to be a prequel before Ruin became a sequel, and that is also something you should definitely go and talk about because Ruin is technically a sequel to Security Breach. So if Security Breach did get a sequel, I would, just really love for it to go and be a prequel. But sadly, I do not think that's actually going to be the case, but that would be cool. But he said it was a sequel, not really a prequel. But Steelwell also went and posted this today, just being something about Chica Pizza's contest, just something for 2026, just a regular chill little thing, and you probably wouldn't read into this. But this fan actually went and read into it and talked about how they did this last year too, and that they also had a little state of play, and that kind of led to the very first trailer for Secrets of the Mimic. So like, if they're planning to do something or plan to reveal something, since we haven't got any FNAF news for the newest game in a while, this will be some crazy cool build up. And also, not to mention, hopping into a little bit of merch news at the same time, Funko just revealed a brand new Glamrock Freddy Funko Pop, which is an interesting mix since it's just randomly adding a new one. He's also a GameStop exclusive, and I gotta say, I absolutely love the figure, even if there is something of a problem, thanks to Roxy Wolf on Twitter for mentioning how it's literally the exact same mold as Freddy, but like, they just copied the exact same head on the top. I honestly really do like this figure. It looks amazing and I really do like it. And also, Dotco in his live stream shows some brand new Hex merch, being a little plush keychain for Vanny, and of course Glitch Trap, which looks really cool, along with also confirming that a Vanny hoodie is also in the works too, which is also a pretty cool little addition. But what do you guys think? Do you think Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach will be getting a sequel, or do you think this new sequel is going to be something a lot simpler like Ruin, or just something else? I have no idea how it could be something else, but either way, it is a sequel, and there is of course a lot of games that hasn't received any sequels yet. But sadly, that's really going to be it for this video. You guys can go and let me know in the comments below if you think it will be a Security Breach sequel, or do you think it will be a Ruin sequel. Either way, I love both the games very, very much, and they're definitely in my top favorite Five Nights at Freddy's games of all time. Even if it has lots of problems, they're really good. I really enjoy them, and I'll love to see them try to redo a open world game like Security Breach and just actually make it so polished and as good as, Secrets of the Mimic, because that was absolutely insane. So seeing them make a Security Breach game with the level of quality as Secrets of the Mimic, but just a lot bigger in scale and following a lot of like the book lore, adding characters and just so many cool things like that, I would absolutely love to see that. But you can definitely let me know in the comments below what do you guys do think, and don't forget to watch this video here to see some concept art for canceled characters in Security Breach, and also my playthrough on Secrets of the Mimic and other Five Nights at Freddy's videos.